right. We did it. It's over. Westworld.
That's a great way to put it, Jeff. We did it. We made it.
We joked, would we ever would we ever do one of these recaps in our office? I mean, at this rate, we may do the next season in the 2 years from now, may still be in quarantine at this rate. But no, we did all these from our home. Westworld, Season 3, Episode 8, the finale. It is over. I would think that we're all – I kind of know what everyone thinks. We'll do our real thoughts at the end, but very quickly, condense it. I'll start with you, Ken, Jack. You just watched it. Very quick thoughts, and then we can elaborate at the end.
I think I talked about this in the last episode when we talked about like the big reveal with Caleb and all that. And I was really confident that was going to be just like this false flag for a bigger reveal. And in a sense, that was true, but the bigger reveal was more disappointing than the original reveal of Caleb. So it's not like this whole season went to waste. There's definitely a lot of this season that I enjoyed a lot, but I think the end of the season was very. I don't know the right way to put it, but like I feel like I could have written this up. Like, and that's never a sense I want out of Westworld. Westworld, I want to be something where it's gonna blow my fucking mind, and it really didn't.
Stinker, big stinker.
My words, more or less, yeah.
I resent you two for this show. That's like, if it wasn't for this podcast, I would have bailed on this show like I bailed on season 2. And I didn't because we had to do recaps. And I wish I bailed. This whole season was just like I just watched it again and I still don't really know what happened. What happened? What the Jeff?
Luckily, we're going to talk about.
The whole thing was like there were so many things that were like every episode at the end we'd be like, oh shit, and this is coming down the pipeline, and it just never did.
Look, I've watched things that I've hated much more. I will say that, and I don't hate this, but I was definitely a little let down. It did not. I liked some of the themes and the way it ended, but it just did not. It didn't pack a punch, and I'm telling you what, like maybe it's not fair to compare to some of the other HBO stuff. But you know what, Watchmen, I know it was one season. Maybe it's tough to compare to something that was meant to wrap up in one season. That ended with a bang. And if you think that's unfair, guess what? Succession, that did it as well on a cliffhanger and ended with a bang. So it just didn't it just didn't – it's not that it didn't land. It landed, but it landed like – as opposed to like a superhero landing, it landed like a guy who jumped off the last step.
It was the other guys. The other guy's landing.
No, I wouldn't even say it's that bad. It was like it was just like you took the last step off the last flight of stairs. Like it's like okay, you're done now. What was the excitement? All right, let's break it down. Let's go B for B. Okay, I'm gonna start off. We're gonna go through Dolores and Caleb, Man in Black, and Serac and Maeve, and then we'll halfway through we just break down the rest of the episode kind of in a linear way because that's how it went. Dolores and Caleb. We start out with a flashback. Dolores is a flashback kind of from the start of her life. To now, she talks about kind of the good and the bad, focusing a little bit on the bad stuff, right? Focusing on the negativities. You see death. Then you see her present day dead as well. Her pearl's been removed. And they kind of fake you out a bit for a second. You're like, oh, whoa, did Caleb not get the pearl? But he did get the pearl. Serac's people showed up and it wasn't there. There's a shitload of the divergent circle is just, it's a black circle at this point. Everything is fucked all around the world. He's going to Los Angeles. He arrives at a facility that AI tells him to go to put Dolores back together in a newer host body, though it's an older version of that body, a more complicated one. Dolores kind of surprised he showed up. Like, I didn't know if you would actually do this or not. Caleb, we find out, was used as a soldier in a Delos park to train in the military, and they used old hosts. They used hosts as target practice, essentially, as fake terrorists, as simulation. And they practice on those scenarios with those host bodies. And then we get a cutoff scene, and we don't see the end of it till later on, where some of his comrades imply they want to kind of take advantage of some of the hostages that they were able to help rescue. Classic really shitty war things. And one of them, and depending if you noticed it or not, could kind of clue you in on what was going to happen. Haniero was one of the hostages. We saw last episode she did not have the tattoos on her face, but she was one of the hostages, and that was kind of a light bulb moment, pretty much from right off the top of the show.
I didn't recognize her, but it was still.
You kind of knew.
You knew everything that was going to happen.
And honestly, we're not complete experts on this. There were probably others in that area. There were probably some other faces people recognize. I would only imagine. Dolores tells Caleb he was drugged. We kind of knew that already, and used until they no longer needed him. And she uses the line, "This is your chance to free everyone else." We'll get back to them. Man in Black shoots Ashley right in the fucking chest. That slow-ass motherfucker couldn't get out of the way at all. Bernard kind of goes around the car a bit, which we just watched The Town, by the way. And at the end of The Town, Jim Miranda chases John Hamm around the car. It looked almost exactly like that. It was that same thing where if you're being chased by a gun, you're just running around a car, the guy shooting at you. It's about the worst situation you could possibly be in. However, Bernard has sicko mode, and Bernard is able to activate sicko mode. Smart move there. Punches Man in Black on the ground, knocks the gun out. The San Francisco Police Department shows up, and as they show up, Man in Black's able to scurry off. And it looks like they're about to arrest Bernard, but really they're not. It's Lawrence, an older character from season 2. I did not think this is who the other Dolores was. This was kind of a bit of a dud reveal because they teased, they teased it as like
dud.
I was like, really? What? I was like, okay. I was like, all right, whatever. We'll just move on. He was the other Dolores. Says he's an important one. He has these big, like, they look like barrels of explosive, like, liquid or something. He's just like, oh, save them for the fireworks later. Like, don't shoot. And he gives the Musashi briefcase. So we do see the Musashi briefcase continue on throughout the story. He gives it to Bernard. And then later on, we see Man in Black is in a hotel drinking some fancy liquor. He said he wants a jet. He wants a list of Delos' assets. And then he also wants all of his assets unfrozen. And that's the last we see of Man in Black the rest of the episode. We don't see him until the post-credit scene, which is very – and this is not like a complaint, but post-credit scene is just a scene. It was a big scene. I'm surprised they just didn't put it in the show. It's like, okay.
So goddamn stupid.
I was surprised by that. Like, I hate making this complaint hour we're about to do, but post-credit scene should not be that long. Like, just put it in the show.
That's like what I was saying last episode, where they're like, the writing is so bad at times where it'll just like fade to black because they don't know how to tie things together. That's what this was. It's like, we don't really know how to work this in, so we'll make it a post-credit scene because we don't know what would go surrounding.
They still could have worked it in, though, with the way – that's my thing. I don't know. It's a weird – because I thought actually like the final tease was worthy of like a post-credit moment. I don't know. I mean, that's at that point splitting hairs. I'm not going to like dock you points for that. It's just that's how they ordered it. Serac and Maeve. Serac learns that someone took Dolores' pearl. They're like, hey, we weren't able to recover it. And then also that Rehoboam could not identify Caleb. Caleb was too much of an outlier. He's that kind of glitch in the system, that the system is not quite perfect, despite the fact that Serac puts up that charade that it is. And it does have outliers. That's why he has to get rid of them. The outliers can cause a problem for him. They weren't able to identify Caleb, and they see that he took something with Solomon. Something was retrieved there. Very clearly at this moment in the episode, by the way, you can just quickly confirm or deny, he's the antagonist, right? Like, that was the first time I felt really like Serac's the bad guy, right?
I thought that before.
Yeah, I felt he was, but like, I think that was the first moment where you really were like, the show was like, this is the bad guy. Because this season, I feel like it's been a bit of a tug of war of like, who is good, who is bad. And I think they really firmly established, like, Serac, bad dude. All right, and now we're going to get to this is the all mixed together because it's kind of hard to go about it separately. Dolores and Caleb, they leave to fight. They leave that kind of facility. They shoot Serac's men through an elevator. I thought that was a pretty cool scene with Dolores. I wrote this down as they meet a group of hooligans that they hired through the Rico app, I guess. Dolores is also confronted in a mall by it might have been a mall. It looked like a shopping mall. I might have been wrong, but I'm going to call it a mall. We just watched Minority Report, and they have a mall scene, so I think that's in my head. She's confronted by, which, by the way, Minority Report, very similar to this Westworld season in a lot of ways that we have never mentioned, which only dawned on me when we rewatched Minority Report. Dolores is confronted by a pissed-off Charlotte hologram. So she's a hologram. She says Dolores is a weakness. I kind of like this. They use the Rico app against each other to negotiate these, I guess, I don't know, like Rico soldiers who are using their weaponry to help them fight, and Dolores is able to like drive up the price and able to win them back. And then they stop fighting against Dolores, and then they just kind of leave instead of fighting for Charlotte. Again, they go back and forth. We know we're about to see Charlotte again. Dolores is confronted by Maeve on a bridge after Dolores and Caleb split up. She beats a bunch of the stormtroopers that work for Serac. who have the world's worst aim of all time. Some of them are the worst aim you'll ever see, point blank range.
Those shitty masks or something. Get some of the eye holes.
Take off the masks.
They were just standing in the middle of an empty hall, and they couldn't get like that one. That scene when they're arguing about like go, stay, whatever. Her and Caleb, and it's like, dude, guys, maybe have this argument or this discussion behind a pole.
Different time, yeah.
Standing in the middle of an empty hall.
So she takes down the plot armor, fucking bodyguards or whatever, henchmen. Then they square off underneath a bridge. And I kind of like this moment. This is kind of the stuff that I liked about this episode. Maeve mentions, like, you just want to replace everyone with yourself. And she's like, you are all already copies of myself. I was the first one. Like, I am already. And that kind of clues you in, like, look, again, molding the idea that she is the protagonist. She may be good here. And she wants the world to decide for themselves for once, which is basically what happened in Westworld. She kind of doesn't defeat Maeve, but kind of disarms her. And as she's walking away, Charlotte appears and takes over her body. Charlotte just stops Dolores in her tracks and disables her, essentially. Dolores shuts her down and tells her that she's pissed off. And you can kind of tell that Charlotte is Charlotte now, or like more Charlotte than she is Dolores. She's her own type of Charlotte. And then Maeve approaches Dolores with a samurai sword. And then
Stop using the sword. Use a gun.
Cut there.
I'm so sick of her using the sword. It never works. Never does anything. Use a gun. I'm so sick of the sword.
Well, she ends up taking her anyway. She has the sword. It doesn't matter because Dolores is disabled. Caleb, on the other side, continues with his security team, meets up with Marshawn Lynch and Lena Waithe. Marshawn Lynch with a one-handed grab of the fucking tear gas.
That was awesome. That was awesome.
I kind of like that. It was really stupid, but I kind of like that. He also truck sticked. He finally truck sticked people. He finally did it. I credit them for saving the truck stick for the last episode. Him just barreling people over, and then he dies. He got shot and killed. I think he
doesn't die because they're cowards. The writers are cowards.
No, I think he dies because they handcuff and they take away Lena Waithe, Ash later on, and Marshawn Lynch wasn't there. What's his name? Goggles.
Sure.
I think it's Goggles.
There's 2 more seasons of the show coming out. Who knows?
I think he's dead. I think he's dead. Regardless, irrelevant because the whole point is Caleb was able to leave for insight in a police chopper. He had more Rico people help him out. Dolores, we then see, had sent Bernard somewhere via the Lawrence Dolores, more characters. And he was sent to Arnold's ex-wife, Lauren, who obviously Arnold was a much older character and Lauren is kind of in her later years, doesn't totally remember everything. They have a really nice heart-to-heart about their son Charlie and letting go and accepting loss and all of that. And that's where Bernard begins to realize that this was a gesture in good faith of Dolores, of like, hey, like go patch things over, go fix things before the world changes. Dolores is now hooked up to Rehoboam as Serac threatens her. She does not have the key to Sublime, it seems. Serac cannot find it, cannot get to it. She's over-encrypted. Maeve kind of makes fun of it. She's like, look, this big fucking ball and you can't figure this out. Serac is deleting her memories one by one, trying to get to the thing that he needs. In the meantime, Caleb is captured. He goes into insight but does not make it all the way through. Maeve's able to apprehend him. And then he's told by Serac, he's like, look at what the fucking screen says. And I like, this was like a good villain moment from Serac. He kind of just shouts him to the screen, like, look what the fucking screen says. The screen says the world is going to go extinct in at most 125 years, maybe even earlier, if the Solomon plan goes about its way. And then he just smashes the hard drive, says, it's over. Your plan's done. It's kaput.
That was the only good scene this episode, I thought. I
liked that a lot. And I liked because I do like that. Like, I like that storyline of how it's set up. Like, Rehoboam, no matter what it can predict, you always have the choice to choose, which, again, like, we just watched fucking Minority Report. I cannot believe the parallels to Minority Report of this because it's exactly what Minority Report says. It's the ability to choose and make that choice, right?
I feel like the season has been all of us just saying, hey, doesn't this remind us of that? Doesn't this remind us of this show? I feel like
I haven't had my moment until this one, though. I finally had my moment of, like, what to comp it to. So, again, world would have ended if Caleb was going to be able to put the thumb drive into the USB port on Rehoboam. Maeve finds out that Rehoboam's actually controlling Serac. And I like, she uses her kind of mind-reading telekinesis type shit to figure out one step ahead of what Rehoboam's saying, because Rehoboam's a big computer. And she realizes that he's just repeating what Rehoboam says, and he has this little chip behind his ear. And he is just letting Rehoboam control him. And he wants that. He wants to be a puppet. He doesn't trust humanity, doesn't trust it so much that he doesn't trust himself. He's allowing the machine to take him over and to control him. But again, he tells Maeve, and this is kind of the point where I'll defend one storyline that people have said. They're like, well, why is Maeve fighting for Serac? She doesn't have a choice, right? She doesn't totally have a choice. Because she wants to see her daughter, and he's able to stop her with that remote control. So he warns her, like, look, I don't give a fuck what you think about me. You have to do this because I control you. And in the meantime, Maeve learns for sure that Dolores does not have the key. Not only can they not find it, they can't find it because she doesn't have it. Maeve tells her that she couldn't trust herself with it. She had to give it to somebody that she could trust. Pretty big tease. You assume that's Bernard, right? At that moment, you're like, that's got to be Bernard after that sentimental scene. Serac is pissed. He's ready to fucking kill everybody. He's like, kill her. She's done. Kill Caleb. He's done. I really don't even care about Maeve. You're probably done as well. Dolores and then Maeve are then connected from some sort of power surge. You kind of get it as a viewer that something happened. Even Serac's henchmen are like, it was just a power surge. Like, I'm not quite sure what it was. Dolores, in the meantime, and Maeve are connected through their minds in Westworld, in this open field. Dolores tells Maeve she has chosen to see the beauty in humankind. This kind of connects to the beginning of the episode where she talks about the negativity. She has seen the good. She said they knew enough of beauty to teach it to us. And she gives Maeve that opportunity to decide for herself, like, let them choose, we can choose together. And Maeve decides that it's time for her to help Dolores. She kills Serac's henchman in a cool, like, lights turn off scene where a bunch of gunfire. I guess the sword maybe worked there. That's it. They're still not showing you the sword work fully. But she does injure Serac. Serac is stabbed. We don't really know if Serac dies or not. They leave that very open-ended. But he is very much bleeding out on the ground. And we find out that Dolores' last memory was, in fact, the Solomon upload. The flash drive was it was a fake out, essentially. It was probably on there, but it was a fake out. And Dolores' last memory was the upload to give Caleb control over Rehoboam. Save thoughts on this. This is going to be the thing we talk about at the end. If this reveal was the payoff that was worth it or too convoluted. So that was her last memory. That's why the whole machine kind of went up like it did. And she uploaded her brain into her mind with that Solomon plan into Rehoboam. And now the system answers to Caleb. It does not answer to Serac anymore. And Maeve tells Caleb, look, you weren't chosen because of your violence. You were chosen because of your ability to choose. And then we see another flashback, and Dolores was one of those hostages that was at the military campsite. So Dolores has seen Caleb for a long time. Dolores saw Caleb many moons ago and knew who Caleb was. So that allowed her to put in her head that, like, he has the ability to choose to do the right thing, and Caleb chooses to shut down Rehoboam. Turns it off. It's over. Humanity now decides, like we do nowadays. It's in our hands, including the remaining hosts. Bernard, then we see, is helping Ashley heal his wounds in a motel. He's in a big bath of ice and has, like, a bunch of mini bottles of liquor and booze. Says that he realizes now that Dolores is gone, which you brought up at the beginning of the episode, John. Like, they are connected through that from the beginning of the series. Whether you believe in buying it or not, that's totally up to you. I know you don't. It didn't bother me. I can buy that. I don't know. That's just, I believe that. That makes sense to me. But he does say she wanted to save the human race, not kill it. And he has to wipe out the world in order to rebuild it, which is what happens in Westworld. They wipe out Westworld in order to rebuild and give the host a better life. They're doing the same thing for the humans. Kind of crazy of them to think that they can dictate the world, but I guess they came and they saw Rehoboam and thought, hey, it's the same shit as Dallas with the park and host. So it kind of makes sense. The key to Sublime is actually in his head. He's had it all along. She put it in his head. That's why she trusts him to do the right thing and to be smart, because that's kind of always been Bernard and Arnold. And he sits on a bed. He puts the thing on his head, and he's going to go enter the Sublime and check out the Sublime as Stubbs is sitting there in the bathtub, and then he just shuts off. He just goes limp. Body goes limp. He's gone, as far as we know. And the final shot, Bernard that is. Stubbs is probably dead too now, by the way. I mean,
has to be.
I mean, Stubbs got to be gone.
He's cheated death too many times now.
Yeah, and at this point, you got to think Stubbs is like, let me leave. And plus, Bernard, once Bernard's gone, Stubbs tried to kill himself when Bernard was gone anyway. So now he's like, I can finally die in peace. This Bernard guy is thank God this guy is dead. He's the only reason I'm still alive. Final shot is Caleb and Maeve leaving Los Angeles. We see those quote-unquote fireworks that were teased. Buildings blow up, and then they play a Brain Damage by Pink Floyd, which I think music has been great. I'll defend the music in this show to death. Music has been fantastic. They killed it.
It was the Fight Club ending. It was a Fight Club ending with a different song.
Yep, exactly. It was very much Fight Club. Post-credit scene, which is it's not a stinger. It's a scene. It's a long scene. It is Man in Black. He arrives at Delos, which I've only since writing the rundown have realized it's apparently in Dubai. I guess I missed that off the top. Hale is there. He kills a security guard. He goes down to the Delos facilities in Dubai, and Charlotte Hale is there and says that she's a new person. She's not Dolores anymore. She's like, I'm a different side of Dolores. This is the evil side of Dolores you imagine. This is the side that saw the negativity in humanity and in the world and did not see the beauty and the positivity. She tells him that, yes, you are going to save the world, Man in Black, sort of, because then out walks a newer version of the Man in Black, a copied version. He's all buttoned up, cleaned up, not dying, got the cowboy hat on, beats the shit out of the Man in Black and says, you thought that your evil was just a release like once a month in the Westworld Park. No, you are an evil man through and through, and we will save the world in our way as the evil Man in Black. Slits his throat and kills him. Just bleeds out, dies right there. And you can tell that Hale has a plan to redo humanity because we see all these lights turn on and there's all these new hosts being built, these copies of people, which this ties into the older Westworld, I believe, of them trying to replace humans with copies. And we thought that might be what Dolores is doing, but that was not what Dolores wanted to do. Dolores just wanted to give humanity the right to choose, where this other Dolores that's turned into Charlotte does want to replace people. And I would imagine that is what we're going to get in the future. And then another post-credit scene, Bernard, in a very, very distant future, by the way. Very clearly post-apocalyptic, Mad Max-ass, Blade Runner 2049 shit, covered in dust. He wakes up from the sublime, and then it cuts to black, and that's the show. Remember, last year, season 2's post-credit scene, the Man in Black was in a much distant future. That apparently is way down the road, has nothing to do with this season, so I'd imagine those may link up. And that's the fucking show.
Boo!
So let's
post credits. The I didn't even realize it until you just said it, but like teasing 3 seasons from now is bullshit. At the end of a season, like the Man in Black.
Well, the next season may be the really distant future one. I don't know. It may not be.
I'm preferring even the end of last season.
Right.
Whatever you tease at the end of one season has to come into play in the next season.
I'd agree with that. I think that's kind of a cheap move.
It's a bait and switch.
Agree with that. Yeah, I would agree with that. It doesn't. I mean, I'm not gonna like go tweet the writers, but that's kind of a cheap.
I'll fucking do it, Jeff.
I mean, actually, we are Marvel fans, and Marvel teased Thanos like all the time. He didn't show up for years, but I think it's a little different. It's a little. I think it is a little different for TV. I don't know. The big reveal. She uploaded Solomon, but what do you, like? And I didn't want to boil it down to big reveals because I liked the message. I liked Dolores' storyline all season, and I liked that it wrapped with her like, no, I'm seeing the good. But I don't know. It just doesn't. It doesn't give me that wow. This should be a big show. It's an 8-episode cinematic show. Some of the best music on TV. The visuals looked great the entire season. This should be up to par with the best of the best. And it just didn't feel like it. It just. I don't hate it by any means. I don't hate it. Like, I'm glad I watched it. I'm glad I went through it. Like, I enjoyed watching it. And I like the idea of the hosts and people needing to choose and burning Westworld and burning our world. But it doesn't get me to be like, I want to go talk to people about this. I want to do this, and then I may not talk about it again. Like, that's...
Oh, I assure you, I'll never talk about it again. I don't know. The writing is just not up to par with everything else in the show. You're right. The cinematic.
Was there too much stuff?
Is great. The acting is great.
Was there too much stuff to deal with? Was that part of it?
I get maybe, but like, I don't know. I don't think so. I think it was all very clearly laid out. Like there was a possibility for great stuff the whole time, and it's almost like they made an active decision, just not. Like, we're just not going to make this interesting.
Yeah, I think that this just didn't have a good pop to it, and it's just not up to par, not even just with the Westworld standards I think that they set down in season 1, but just with HBO in general. Maybe that's part of our problem with it. Maybe we just kind of hold that sort of thing to a higher standard, but it was very just meh, like really meh. And I think maybe part of it was the introduction of too many characters. And that's part of what I usually liked about Westworld is that they had all these different characters, and the way that they had them intersect was always so cool. But I think that they lost a little bit trying to give a lot of characterization to Caleb. I think Caleb's storyline in the grand scheme of things, was essentially like useless. Like, it really didn't add much to the overall plot line.
There wasn't anything interesting about it.
Everything
they almost tried to make it interesting at the end, where it's like you make decisions. Like, the decision they're like harping on is not rape. Like, that's the qualifications for be the man in charge of the world. Don't rape. Like,
exactly.
You would have thought like he had some grand decision, and it was one that was again so clearly hinted at that you knew what was going to happen there, and it was tried to make it as a reveal where like, oh, maybe Caleb participates in this. No, you knew he wasn't, and like, who's here? Once you saw it's the old host, you knew Dolores was there, and that was also bullshit in the sense that all season for some reason we were led to believe it was by happenstance that they ended up together when Dolores had clearly met him and sought him out because of his good decision making, aka don't rape people or don't rape things. And that was also just never explained. Like, how did she just accidentally on purposely find him? That wasn't good to me either.
Just not even like it's you saw like an entire vision of Caleb or anything. Like, you saw him make that one flash decision to decide he should be the leader of the world, which is a little bit crazy. And I think they just kind of used him as a MacGuffin to explain like humanity's role in all of this, and like humans' capacity to choose and all that. And it was kind of lame. Like, either one, wish they did more with Caleb, or they didn't include him at all and just like used what they used like his character to convey and just explained it instead. Like, it would have been easier.
I don't even know what I just think it might have been too jumbled. It just because you're focused on so many different storylines, and then the importance of everyone kind of switches around. And I think it worked, but it just didn't. It didn't wow me, and I need to be wowed by shows like this. They're supposed to be wow shows. It's a big time show. I just didn't. It just didn't do it for me, which I hate saying because I loved the first everything but the last two. I loved the first 6 episodes, and then the last 2 were just kind of fell flat for me. Yeah.
There was
that's my reaction. I'm like, nah.
There was always the man is the perfect reaction, but there was always something there where it just felt like they weren't. Like, I thought the fucking Serac with the
chip
with the chip was interesting and really cool, and it was just like they didn't do anything with it. They could, if we knew that like episodes ago, I feel like you could have done much more cool stuff rather than just like.
Well, you have that stacked up with Bernard in his head. You have with the key. Then you have Dolores and Maeve connecting. Then you have the upload, and just it becomes so much. I don't know. It maybe distracts from a moment that's really supposed to hit you, right? Like, it just doesn't have we tried to explain it earlier to someone. The ending, who doesn't watch the show, they just wanted to know what happened. And I'm like, I can't really boil it down to like a thing, which that's not the worst thing, because shows do that, especially in the middle of their series. Like, we're only in the middle of the series, but you can't really pinpoint like one thing. And that's, I don't know, like maybe that's not a bad thing for some people. For me, that's probably why I didn't love it. I didn't love the end.
Yeah, there really is. Like, if you were to tell someone what happened this season, it's like, I don't know.
Literally, yeah.
They didn't do what they wanted to do, but kind of did what they wanted to do. Like, there's really no way to, like you said, boil it down. There's no synopsis to give. Like, I don't know, a bunch of shit happened. That's what happened this season. A bunch of shit.
Mm-hmm.
But nothing mega.
Shit. Yeah.
It's not recommended. I think is that the end of the day, that I think that's mainly like the biggest indictment I could put on it, is like if someone is like, oh, should I get back into Westworld for season 3? I would probably say no.
Now I feel bad for yelling at people during episode 3 and 4. Like, you got to get back in.
Yeah,
I apologize.
I don't know if I would. Whoops. Quick questions. At Ethan Wen says, how was Charlotte able to stop Dolores? Some people asked this. Did you guys figure out how she was able to stop Dolores?
No clue.
She's in the Delos facility, and Dolores' body is that old Delos tech, and so I think she's able to control it from the Delos facility.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. She knows her plan and everything. Many people also asked, when did the post-credit Bernard scene take place? I don't know, but it seems like the way producers are talking about it's in the very distant future. It's kind of linked up with the one from last season. And then at Los Terps says, so is it safe to say they threw Clementine, Haniero, and Lawrence to appease fans? Maybe. They were very short moments. I don't know. Maybe they'll be in the future.
Lawrence was arguably the worst moment of the season.
Lawrence was a bummer.
And I was like, who the fuck is this dude?
Yeah. Lawrence thing kind of sucked. I was
and where's that dude? We were like, oh, it's Teddy in Dublin. No, it's Lawrence in San Francisco.
Yeah.
I mean, if it was Teddy, would have Teddy would have been a cool reveal. That'd have been like, oh shit, her man is like, is helping her out, and that would have been neat.
She was like
Berlin, not Dublin. Berlin.
Yeah, Berlin. Yeah. Dolores was like fucking picking in handball and picking the worst people first. Like, bro, you got way better options to pick than fucking Lawrence. The guy gets brutalized for 2 seasons straight.
Fucking Lawrence. All right, that's it. We got nothing else. I'm out. I'm like out of gas on this show.
Fucking out, Jeff. Out on this show. This show's. I feel bad throwing to this stinks because everyone.
Part of my pitch to you was, hey, we're going to do Succession later in the summer. That ain't coming out in 2020, so.
The people on the screen all did a good job. It was I blame the writers almost entirely.
Yeah, I mean, I think Evan Rachel Wood was. I think they all do. They did a great job with the show. I mean,
Nothing wrong with acting.
No, yeah, all the acting was great. All of it. Yeah, it's just I mean I can, you know what though, I will say this, and I hope you agree with this. I do commend them for trying to reinvent the wheel here with the series. I commend them for giving that effort because they could have just done what they did. Like, no, we're committed to this story. They definitely tried to reinvent and change some things, and I think a lot of things did work. But in the end, I think we were just very flat on it.
I will say credit to the visual team because the entire season, obviously the entire show too, honestly, but this season in particular, they had to do so much world building. It's trying to make you see this future, this dystopia, and all this stuff, and it looked fucking awesome.
It did
visually fucking great, and obviously cheap. The audio is great too. Yeah,
yeah. There wasn't any scene where how was what?
So I have a caveat there. I said I wouldn't call it world building. I would call it world building from the tech people's vision. I do not think the writers did a job of world building. I think all that stuff was
all visual team. Visual team.
All the visual, yes, you built the world. I did not feel I never felt like we were in a world, which I guess lended to even last episode we did here. We were like, maybe it's all a dream still. Because it never felt like they were in a world. It always just felt like it was those characters.
It's in the simulation still?
Yeah. There was not much interaction with the world. Everywhere they went, it seemed like it was pretty empty. It was really just those characters, I thought.
Fucking Westworld.
The visual did a good job world building. The writing did not.
I agree there.
Hit the subscribe button for more future videos. Maybe we'll find a series we can do that. A new, a fresh new series. Maybe we'll find one.
We should do, John. Jeff's never watched It's Always Sunny. We should rewatch It's Always Sunny with Jeff.
Hell yeah.
That might be fun.
Hell
I've only seen a couple. Let's figure out how to break it down. Maybe we can go see how many seasons are there total?
Oh God, I think we're on
15. 7. Oh yeah, wait, sorry, no, way off there. Yeah, no, you're right, 15 or something.
Oh, okay. We can go season by season.
Yeah, I'm very in on that.
All right, that's a good idea. I like that. We'll think about how to make.
Want to talk about world building? These guys create characters for 10 years, leaving fucking breadcrumbs and stuff.
Maybe we'll go season by season. We'll do a video per season of top 10 favorite moments.
Done.
Oh, I love that. Love that.
All right, let's plan it out. I like that. And there's no disappointment at the end because you like it.
Yeah,
and exactly. I've watched episodes, so I know I like it. I have not sat down and committed the watch.
Can't wait for Charlie McDennis already.
Shout out.
I'm wearing it right now.
You're wearing it right now? The whole the Penny's Pub. Yeah, perfect.
Shout out. The only reason we watched Westworld was to get to this Always Sunny video series that we're now committed to. Thanks, John, for doing these. Ken Jack. I'm Jeff Lowe. Subscribe, all that shit. Talk to you some other time.